to Classroom Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. David Lawson, who is the coordinator for the counseling program and is a professor in the counseling program at the Orlando campus of Palm Beach Atlantic University. Dr. Lawson, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Today, I'd like to talk about your Foundations of Counseling class. Describe that class for me.
Well, the Foundations class is the introductory class to what is counseling, what is the counseling profession, what are you going to be doing, what are the issues you're going to confront as a counselor. And really, it helps a student understand basically what the profession is, but what their job opportunities might be. What are the threats to the profession? For example, counseling actually has a high suicide rate, and so a lot of what we talk about in the class is how to deal with self-care, how to deal with difficult clients, how to deal with yourself and your family in the process. Good. So there's a lot of stuff that we deal with that just basically are foundational. That's foundations. Right. I know that's ironic, but it's basically the introduction to this is my profession, and then what is my identity. So in the class, we're really trying to help people discover their identity, what that looks like, what that's about.
What are some of the specific things or activities that a student can accept or expect in this class?
Well, they're actually required to do counseling in the class. So for those of you coming in, you need to be aware this is a required part of the class. So we do that so that students get an idea of what it is like to be a client, but also to go through the process themselves, because coming into a graduate program is difficult. And this is a good self-care process. This is a good self-care moment. And so we try at the very beginning to get students to be thinking proactively about self-care, what that means, what that's like. Going through the counseling actually helps them. I've said to a couple students who've asked me, why do I need to do this? And my answer is, well, you know, if you came to me and said, you know, I want to be a pastor, but I've never been to a church, I would sort of doubt and question, you know, is this really what you want to do, or are you just making this up? And the same thing, I think, for students who come in who just have never really experienced the counseling process. So that's number one. Number two, we also talk a little bit about worldviews in the class, and what the worldviews, how that impacts their understanding and how they see the world, and then how that worldview frames the way that we even see pathology and clients. And so it's a combination class where you're getting a lot of information, you're getting a lot of just important data about what it means to be a counselor, but you're also getting some practical sort of experiences of this is what the profession is like, and this is what you should expect as a counselor.
I'm glad you talked about worldviews, because my next question is, how do you then integrate faith in the learning process?
Well, you know, a lot of people will talk about faith integration, and I actually happen to be a pastor too, but a lot of people will talk about faith integration from sort of an external perspective. They'll talk about, okay, faith means, and they have words that they express, or they have a bumper sticker, or they have something that identifies them as being a Christian. And my answer is, integration of faith and counseling is really an internal process. It's not an external process. It's not something where I can give you a series of Bible verses, or I can give you a sort of a sheet that says this is what a Christian counselor is. Integration of Christian counseling occurs in an individual, and so as God has created you and gifted you and blessed you in a specific way, that integration occurs as you deepen in your faith and you deepen in the counseling profession itself. So it's something that's a very inward process, and I think I challenge students to really sort of look inwardly and evaluate themselves and critique themselves in an effective way, and it's not going to look exactly like anyone else. Someone who graduates from PBA, you're not going to look like everyone else. We don't create cookie cutter students. We create students who understand how God has created them and blessed them and gifted them, and then what that uniqueness is like, integrating that with counseling, and then going out and sharing that with the community.
So with that being said, what are your expectations of the things that a student would leave this class having learned and being able to integrate?
Well, a lot of what you're going to be learning in the class is how to think, obviously, like a counselor. What does it mean to think like a counselor? We talk a little bit about the history of the profession and how did we get to this place that we have counseling now? What does that look like? So, I mean, a lot of that sort of an understanding and grasping that, but also a counselor identity. What does it mean to actually be a counselor? What is that identity? And how do I apply that to myself? What does that look like? What does it sound like? How do I smell as a counselor? type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, what is all of that about? And so I think a lot of what a person is going to get out of the class is honestly a sense of, you know, this is who I am. This is what God has called me to do. This is where I'm going with it. And I think I have a path now on how I need to get there.
Wonderful.
So that's
Sounds exciting. Well, thank you for your time. God bless you.
Thank you.